Hey, what's up? This is Dave.
And Annamaria.
And we're from Vajra.
And you're watching Heavy New York.
Heavy New York!
What is up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We got another video interview. Great to see you all again in person. We are here with my good friend Annamaria of Vajra. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. It's so great to have you here. The newest single is Maya, which is the first single off of your Kala. Could that first single almost serve as like a clear representation of what this whole album is going to sound like? Or is that just the tip of the iceberg?
It's the tip of the iceberg. It's one of the sounds. There are different sounds, like there are different colors. It's an experience. It's a journey. This is the first album in a trilogy series of albums, like I mentioned to you before, exploring consciousness. So this one is the lowest level of consciousness. It's ego, it's lie, it's cheat, it's steal, it's selfishness, it's materialism, ego. So this one has some darker elements lyrically and has some darker elements musically.
Mm-hmm. Did you think of this concept before writing the music, or did this kind of idea come into play after you were experimenting with your sound a little bit more?
The trilogy I knew I wanted to do maybe 3-4 years ago, something like this. The sounds, it's weird because, I had this concept, this idea, and I wasn't really sure lyrically or musically what I was going to put in the album yet. I have pieces of music. The way I write is I have different pieces of music. I kind of store it over here and keep working on other things and then piece things together, or sometimes you just sit in front of the keyboard or whatever it is and things just come. This was kind of fragmented. A lot of it was fragmented in different pieces, different stages, but it was fragmented. And then we had been touring heavily. I wasn't finishing anything because you just have no time. And then we come back from tour, I'm booking the next tours, and it's just like I was insane. And then the shit hit the fan. So my roommate had to move out because he was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer.
I'm very sorry.
It was horrible. And then I was diagnosed with a tumor, but it was not cancerous, but it was causing a lot of female issues because it's in the female area. And then a lot of bleeding, a lot of pain, weird stuff was happening. I developed anemia. My cat died, Rex. I'm sure you met him the last time. Yeah. While we were on tour in Sweden. I had a breakup with this guy that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And then I got audited by the IRS. Wow. So I was hit bam, 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 bam with everything. And that's when I stopped. We stopped touring. And I was like, we're going to finish this album. And the lyrics and the music then just came out of all of that shit. Mm-hmm. And the health aspect were really tough for me because I run, I do yoga, I eat organically. I've never had any issues with my health. I've been so lucky, and all of a sudden I'm down. So, when you're sick, you start questioning life, where you're at, what you're doing, why you do what you do. Is this what you really want to do, or is this what you think you want to do because somebody else maybe influenced you to do what you're doing? And is that okay or not? Okay, you start going into that other level of questioning, which is what I did when I lived in India. Mm-hmm. When I moved to India, I was in a transition in my life, and that kind of was like all of that, and pleroma came out of that. So it's a good thing, but it's painful, as you know, when you go through anything else that's difficult. It's really painful and difficult to go through, but we are alchemists. We can come out through the other side if we do the work.
what I find unique is that because, we were talking for this interview, this relates a lot to the Sumerians, and, there's a lot of history behind it. So do you almost feel like with this trilogy and this concept, it also very much relates to what you were personally going through at the time?
Yeah, so I guess I didn't finish it. Kala is the Sumerian word for the underworld. So that's, this is all the underworld. The underworld is symbolic for me. It's a symbolic term. It's not some place that you necessarily physically go to. It's a place maybe in your mind that's really unpleasant. And with Buddhism and you have bardos, when you die you go through different layers of death, basically different doors, like the Egyptian Book of the Dead also has a similar concept. I think that these are layers that I don't know if it's something with the soul or if it's something with the mind, but they're emotional and spiritual places that we, I think, sit in. And so I was in that one of those dark places in my life, and the lyrics and everything came out of that. So, yeah.
So it's fair to say that the making of this album maybe in one aspect of your life opened the door to something else and closed the door to another aspect.
Truly.
There was an element of both self-discovery and closure behind it.
Truly. And I think, for me, when I write, it's all a part of that. I'm not doing this to just get on stage and do, just play or I'm not a technical player. I play different things poorly, I'm not technical at all, but I write. And I think we're, as artists, channels, we are translators. We can just clear ourselves as much as we can and act as a filter for whatever energy we tap or catch to translate through us into the material space. So it's always, and then through that process, we learn, and we learn some insight about ourselves, but we learn some insight generally about this whole thing that we can apply to our existences. So it's always very therapeutic, spiritually and psychologically as well, when I write and when I do all this, and performing as well.
Absolutely. And being that you incorporate elements of both your personal life but all these spiritual elements, I mean, is it fair to say that there's also maybe a lot of research that's conducted involved?
Totally.
I mean, you're clearly all the literature that's on the wall right now, if you could see that.
Yeah, it's even this is Inanna, this is the book of Inanna's descent and the stories, the Sumerian stories dealing with Inanna. So yes, this is a book that was gifted to me from my dear friend Taz Lemur, The History of the Devil and the Idea of Evil, because I was going through some of that when I was lyrically coming through some of the ideas. And then, of course, I had to consult some of the Crowley stuff.
Yeah.
Just to, go there. But yes, so all of this, I definitely do a lot of research. I enjoy doing a lot of research. The video that we have for Maya is a part of all of the music will have a video component, and it's all based on the story of the descent of Inanna. Well, it's not based, it's inspired by the story of the descent of Inanna.
Do you want this music to be open to interpretation, or being that you put your heart in all this research and there's so much of your personal experience vested into this, you maybe want the listener to maybe see things from your point of view and engage into the trilogy of this concept?
No, I want anybody to hear or listen to it and attach their own meaning to it. To me, that's the best thing that can happen. Where I came from it, the space that I was in when I wrote it, is one interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
But we all are different aspects of the one experiencing itself based on the varied experiences that we have in our lives. So you will attach a different color to what I do, and that's beautiful and awesome, because then it will apply to you or not, in whatever way.
Yeah, it's funny because, do you feel because you said that you've had this trilogy in mind for a while, but I think it's fair to say that if you didn't have these terrible essences of darkness that you experienced before, that we could have been hearing something completely different.
Totally.
I know that's a big what-if scenario, but...
Totally. Because every experience colors everything. The artwork, the lyric, the pause here or there in the music, everything colors. It's all connected. It's if we're paying attention and really being that deliberate. For me, I am deliberate, but that's just my nature. So yeah, it would definitely color all of it, every aspect of it. Everything that you do from this moment might change had something else occurred right before that was different.
Yeah, who knows? We rescheduled this interview from Friday now to Monday. Maybe the interview would have been completely different on Friday.
It would have been different on Friday. I was actually feeling under the weather on Friday, so I was like, cha-ching. I was like, oh yeah, this works out.
Yeah.
You're like, thank you so much. I'm like, no, thank you.
So perfect.
It was perfect.
It works out totally great. And, like, it's funny, too, because, like, do you almost feel like in order to get into that creative process, because, you're always thinking, you're always doing research, but, like, do you almost feel that you almost need to have kind of like a usual go-to feeling to get into that creative process? Do you almost need to be at a certain place at a certain time in order to kind of make your ideas come into a composition?
Stress, there are things that are inhibitive. Stress is not a good thing. I get very stressed. I stress myself out. It's something that I have to work on.
I mean, you live in New York. It's only natural.
Yeah, right. And Chinatown.
Yeah.
It's like, why? So, yes, I have to just relax and chill out. I have to breathe. I have to remember to breathe. Breathing is so important. There are certain things that I will definitely do to calm my space. And then I just have to not... The thinking is always there. The chatter is always there. I just have to go out to the keyboard and start.
Yeah.
Or pick up the guitar and start noodling around. What I've been doing lately is just vocalizing over the shruti box, which plays like 4 different tones, and I just hit different things and try to sit in the space of the tones that are there and work around that, and whatever comes. When we were working on the video, Dave would be editing some of the stuff, and he would have to tinker around and he did a shit ton of he did all the technical stuff, and I would pull back and have the shruti box there to kind of just calm the space and then just start to sing. And that, the act of singing, as you know, for anybody, the tones heal the body. The tones heal the space. They've done the experiments where if you're playing something, if you're talking nicely to even water, you can see that the shapes in the water will differ based on what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's all vibration. It is all vibration. So we can heal ourselves even through the sound. So if I'm not in the space, sometimes I will force myself and say, okay, well, you're in as much as you can. Now just take the keyboard or the shruti box out, like I said, and just start. And you'll start to feel better in 5 or 10 minutes.
Fair enough. I mean, have you ever thought about writing music in a very stressful situation to see on how different that could possibly...
Yeah, because I will force myself sometimes, and sometimes it just won't. It won't even work. And I could come out with something great. It's possible, but a lot of times, if I'm stressful, it's almost as if the receiver is closed. And it's like this pounding, not pounding is not the right word, but it's a very focused energy that I can't see the possibilities of the sounds and the things that could come because I'm just too closed. Mm-hmm. That's the best way to put it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine, though, that inspiration sometimes has to strike at the most inconvenient times.
It will strike at inconvenient times. I have pads all around the house, and he knows. And then I have, we record everything on the phone, too. So, we'll just let's record it. Because in 5 minutes, it will be gone, and it will be gone.
Inspiration is like lightning. It's gone as quick as it can come.
We were listening to, what was his name? David Lynch, who I love.
Yeah.
And he's like, ideas are everywhere, but you gotta get them down. If you don't get them down, they're gone. And I was like, oh my God, it's so true. He's so right. So you have to just at least write something down where you'll remember what it was, and then you can go back into it later when you're in the right frame of mind that you can flesh it out and indulge in it, you know.
Yeah, it's just like every second counts when you're creating something. So like if it wasn't done at that very moment, you're never going to have it again.
You paint, you write, it's like this. It's just, we're vessels. We are conduits for the energies to flow through us. We have to allow it to flow through us, and we don't dictate it. We color it through our experience, right, of life, so we can only interpret it the way we interpret it. But the initial inspiration comes from somewhere. I don't take ownership of any of it.
Do you think, like, for a person to better understand this trilogy and these experiences, they should start off with the first? What do you think, like, a listener can approach your work from any different angle, or do they need to start it off from a more chronological sort of standpoint?
I think they should do whatever they want. They can listen however they want. Each different aspect that you come into the circle will color your experience. If you come in to the circle from here, that's going to mean, and then go around, that's one way to do it. If you go in over here, that's another way. You'll have hopefully different varied experiences of how it will be perceived. I'll say this, if you listen to a single or an interlude, that's one thing. If you listen to the whole entire thing, that's another thing.
Yeah, it's. I've always had this discussion with artists, like if the music is what I call now shuffle friendly, because there's been times where I would listen to an album in the order that it's written. It's a completely different experience than if I listen to the last song first or the first song last.
Yeah.
Like listen to an album forwards, backwards, in the middle. It's a new perspective every time.
Yeah, and I mean, I personally will. I want to go on the journey, so like I'll listen to Lateralis from start to finish. I do. I listen to Lateralis from start to finich.
I mean, if I can't listen to Parabola without listening to Parabola first. So
yeah, so, like it's every song was selected, just like in Pleroma as well, deliberately to just like our set list. The songs aren't just haphazardly thrown in just for time's purposes or because everybody likes this song or that song. There are certain songs we will sing, we will play every time we play, but because those songs are just staples for us, but we will craft the set list in such a manner it is always to have some sort of emotional response, to trigger a certain emotional response that we think we will go on, at least journey-wise. Whether or not the audience receives that will be something else. We can't control that. But if we sit in the space and we go on that journey, if it feels like a certain journey to us, then you are more likely as an audience member to go on the journey as well. You're not going to go into it if we're not into it.
Absolutely. And that led me perfectly into the next question, because your live shows, I mean, seeing you live is like the ultimate experience. Like, I just love the atmosphere and the vibe, and of course all of our mutual friends are there, so it always creates a fun experience. But do you feel that when you're executing this song in a live presence, does it put you back in the headspace that you were when you first wrote it, or is it a different energy because you're playing it on a stage versus like in a more closed and more dictated environment?
It's a really good question. It varies for me. It depends on the song. It depends on the show. When I sing the words to the songs, they have certain meanings that I've attached in them, but that will change and morph through time. So I do try to sit in that space, because I'm not just singing words. I'm emotionally responding, not just to the music, but also to what I'm saying. I'm saying something. So when I do it right, I think I'm tapping into something. However, I will say this, I'm tapping into what I think, what all of this means to me, what the music means to me, what the lyrics means to me. But if some asshat acts a fool in the audience, I'm there too.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have this other color that comes in while I'm singing.
Kind of brings it, I think, it brings contrast to the show.
Yeah.
I remember one of my favorite shows I saw you guys play. I was at Revolution. Rest in peace.
Oh my God, venue. Another one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, seeing you with our friends in Charetta, and who else? Roulette played there. Bad Mary was the other band, and I'm missing one, and I feel really horrible about it. But either way, like, I remember seeing all the bands, and everybody was of different styles. So, like, seeing you play with Charetta, who's a great hard rock band, shout out to them. Yeah. But, like, you know, it was really, like, fun to, like, see how the contrast, like, you changed Revolution from a rock and roll vibe to an alternate reality.
Thank you.
And there were people coming to that show straight from Warped Tour that day, too. So, like people came in from Warped Tour and then they entered a trance sort of state. Like, it was like, this was the way, this was the ultimate way of melting
to finish the day. Yeah. Thank you. That's, we hear that when we're on tour, like, oh my God, you just transformed the space. How the fuck did you do that? That is definitely, for me, that's a huge compliment because that's intentional. When we go in, to me, I consider every show a ritual. I've said it for years. I've had a prayer table on the stage from our very first show. We burned incense from our very first show, candles, all this stuff. To me, that stuff helps to put me in the mood. And I want all of us to sit in the space. And just, the goal is to unify an energy at the moment. And through sound. And also through visuals, because it's both now, right? It's not just sound, it's visuals as well. So we have all this shit going on in our lives. If we can take 40 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever the show is that we're doing, and just sit in a space and go somewhere else, then we can leave this space and go into our lives and do what we got to do, I think, in a more balanced manner, because for me, when I explore the different spaces, I feel balanced. When I'm only over here, something's not right.
I feel like your shows are also meant to influence all five senses.
Yeah.
One band I've compared you to, definitely not in terms of styles or meaning in any way, shape, or form, but in terms of live presence, I've always thought you guys were a lot like Watain. Because Watain, you know, I mean, it's a ritual as well.
Yeah.
A very evil one, you know, but, but, I mean, with the animals that they bring on stage and their use of blood, like, all the smells are there.
Yeah.
There's, you know, a visual aspect. There's obviously a sound aspect. You feel that music when it penetrates through your heart.
Yeah.
You know, you could just taste the gore and the darkness that they're exploring outwards. So I feel like that you have a similar principle, and that you're not. I don't even consider it a ritual. I consider it more of just a new reality.
Thank you. That's really cool. Definitely, it's intentional also to hit the senses. So it was orally AUR sound, and it's visual through the eyes, and the incense is smell, and then touch if I'm in the audience, near an audience member, but also, you know, just everybody together. And then
the music touches you too. At least for me, I felt it crawl up my skin.
This is the best compliment too that you can say. Thank you. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I just feel like that there's no escaping the show. I feel like you're the type of band where nobody's going to go to the bar and get a drink during your set.
Usually people are like,
you can't escape it.
We're like, do they like it or do they hate it?
Either way.
Come off stage, we're always like, I was like, they fucking hate it. Oh my god. No, everybody was there, man. Everyone was there. I can never tell.
Well, either way, they're not escaping.
No.
They're not escaping.
They're in it. They're in the womb.
Yeah, I think it's like very much like we can't escape the reality of the world that we're currently facing now, regardless of where you're from or what you deal with on a daily basis. We're all faced in this uncertain future together. So I feel like, but that's a very negative reality. This is a very positive reality.
Well, there's positives and negatives to everything.
Yeah.
Everything. So we can say the negative and we can also say the positive, which is it's shitty right now, and this is the shit that we have to go through in order for something, better to come forth. Right now we're experiencing a total ripping of perspective of consciousness, and we're going into a different phase. That's very clear to me. It's a totally different phase. From the moment it happened, I said to Dave, everything's about to change.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Well, I remember when I first spoke to you on the podcast we did back when I was I like to call it now a SoundCloud journalist. But I remember you said 9/11 was almost like an epiphany to make you start something new with your life. And I remember when this whole thing happened, I was listening to the older album actually just to ease my mind. I was like, I really wonder how this is going to also push you in the future, because it seems like you're able to look at the reality of the world that we're in and translate it into something that comes from you and create something positive out of it, or really just a response that we can immerse ourselves into. So I'm very excited. I mean, there's a very, very, very dark time, but there's silver linings everywhere, and I see a lot of great art coming out of this as well.
Yeah, there's going to be there will be great art. Everything we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball, right? But because everybody's so constrained right now, it would seem that you go into the opposite direction before you balance it out. So because we've had so much constraint, it probably will get crazy.
Yeah.
When everybody can get crazy.
It comes apart and then it falls together.
And then it'll settle somewhere in the middle.
Well, we're not too far from where the World Trade Center used to be, but I mean, story, because 9/11 influenced you as well.
Crazy.
Somebody witnessed the tower crumble from across the river. They were standing less than a mile away from it, and they said to themselves, you know what, I'm going to start a band. And you know who that was? Gerard from My Chemical Romance.
Really? I didn't know that.
So, so I think as artists we learn to use turmoil as an armor rather than an anchor.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think in the end, who knows, maybe this will end up being one of the best things that's ever happened to us.
Alchemy. You take a piece of coal and you make it gold.
Absolutely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Just obviously we have the new single Maya out.
Yes.
When can we be expecting a new album soon, and when can we be expecting the rest of this trilogy? Because everybody's craving new music now.
Thank you. So the new album's going to be out in January. I think it's January 11th or 13th. I have to look at the date again. But
it's probably a Friday, right?
It's a Friday.
Yeah.
And so that's January, and we might do a second single. In November.
Say no more. With a video.
With a video, which we started pre-production already, and we got to go into that.
Oh, so. We look forward to hearing and seeing and feeling and smelling and touching more. So.
Thank you.
But everybody, we are here with Annamaria of Vajra, new single Maya out now. Be on the lookout for more stuff coming soon. We'll see you next time, everybody. Be safe.